it is time to get up with the spirit of the 76ers. 2 games and all's well. Is Philly flying all the way to the finals? Meanwhile, can you smell what the chef is cooking? Did Steph prove last night that his is really the team to beat? Plus, wait a minute. Did you hear Mr. Mahomes say ta-ta to Tyreek? Does he really believe it himself? You'll hear it for yourself and make up your own mind. Oh, we are jam-packed on this Tuesday, and we're getting up starting right now and take a look at the squad. We've got Diana's ready to go. McNutt has made her triumphant return from parts beyond sun vacations. I don't know what's going on. Meanwhile, we got all kinds of other insight for you here. Louis Riddick is ready. Michael Tannenbaum is ready. And Seth Greenberg had his first grandson over the weekend. Attaboy, Uncle Seth. And we begin with the action from last night. We got the Nuggets. We got the Warriors. It was the game of the night. And McNutt, they've got the new death lineup going now in Golden State. They were trailing early, but then they went to that group of 5 smalls, and Steph Curry had it going early.
Greeny, this is called ocean mode, okay? Not only was Steph Curry just throwing the ball all over the place and hitting shots, so was Jordan Poole, which I'm sure we'll get into at length. The offense for this squad moves so seamlessly. The way that they were able to assist one another and get wide open looks was crazy.
And take a look at this nice pass here from Jordan Poole. Oh, well, behind the back action for Klay Thompson. Take another look.
Man, 60 assists on 89 makes in the 2 playoff games for the Warriors, and that one was just pretty as any of them.
And the run was 23-4. Now here's Steph again. The run is 26-8 to win the half. And Mike Malone says, I got no answers here. And then, frankly, things would start getting worse. Frustration carries over in the third quarter. You got Will Barton, you got DeMarcus Cousins. They're into it. It continued into the huddle.
You know, sometimes intensity is good. I'd like to believe that the Nuggets will take this home with them and be inspired. Let's get it together, y'all.
We'll find out. Third quarter Warriors by 16, and Steph wasn't done. That's the 3 plus the foul.
Oh, my goodness.
He would score 34, Warriors up 20, and then Nikola Jokic, his night ended early. He's looking for a call there. He doesn't get it. He's going to get himself thrown out. You know who loved it? Draymond loved it. Draymond said, hey, that's usually my shtick. Jokic's night ends. Poole scored 29. Seth says it's great to be back.
It was a long 4.5 weeks, and obviously game 1 was a goal. And a lot of hard work went into it. To be in this moment, this environment after 2 years, absence from the playoffs, it means a lot.
When you beat a team the way we did the first game, they come out and they give you their best punch. And they did that. You know, we took the punch on the chin. We responded right away. We got control of the game. You know, just to see our group respond the way they did, that's special.
Yeah, they took the punch, and then they went to that small lineup, the new version of the death lineup. Curry, Poole, Klay, Draymond, and Wiggins. They've outscored the Nuggets by 29 points in just 11 minutes on the floor in the first 2 games. Overall, this combination is shooting 77% from the floor, 87% from three-point range. How are you going to beat that? Let's find out. Let's go to Uncle Seth here, no relation. What are you going to do? When they put that group on the floor, Seth, I mean, we've seen them ride that thing to championships before. How does it look to you right now?
Looks terrific. They're the best passing cutting team in the NBA. It's not even close. And when you can impose your identity on the game by going small and making Denver match up with you, Denver doesn't have a matchup. Think about this, Greeny. 39 points off cuts. The next closest in the playoffs. The next closest team in the playoffs, points off cuts, is 18. You're talking about a great passing, cutting team with great spacing. You have that small lineup. You got floor gamers. You got shot makers. You got guys that can be active and alert defensively, creating offense out of their defense. That small lineup, Denver does not have a matchup for. They dominate the game with their identity. And that's what playoff basketball is all about. Dominate the game with your identity, force the other team to match up with you. Denver cannot match up with Golden State.
You know, McNutt, sometimes these first-round series are a little dangerous to read into because, you know, you're not necessarily – Denver is obviously – they played the whole season without so many of their good players. But as we sit and watch them, when they go to this, you think, wait a minute, maybe this is the Golden State team we saw early in the season when they looked like the best team in the league, not Phoenix. Is this real, what we are seeing right now?
Oh, is it real? I do think that it's real, Greeny. However, I do expect the next matchup to present a little bit more defensive resistance. You look at a stat that says 48% of the Warriors' field goal attempts last night were uncontested. Credit the Warriors for the offense, but also it leaves you scratching your head a little bit in terms of the defensive constitution of Mike Malone's gang. Listen, we knew about the firepower that the Warriors potentially had. But let's not forget, as you opened our conversation, The part of the reason that Nikola Jokic turned so many heads was because he was working with so little. And this, to me, is heavily revealed in a postseason series versus a single game.
So I think that's really the point here, Seth. Are we seeing a mismatch? I mean, just, a really good team against a less good team that doesn't have some of its better players? Or are we seeing a signal that the Warriors are really the biggest threat to Phoenix?
I think we're seeing the Warriors are a biggest threat to Phoenix. And, yeah, obviously, the Nuggets don't match up all that well. Obviously, Jokic, they're pulling Jokic away from the basket. They're putting him in ball screens, dribble handoffs, pin downs. But it's how the Warriors are playing. It's not just what they're doing, but how they're doing it. Who can match up with this team in terms of their ability to space the floor, convert from defense to offense, their ability to pass, their ability to cut? They score more points off cuts than anyone in the NBA. They play differently than anyone in the NBA. They're not ball screen reliant. They're pass, cut, space, skill, floor gamers reliant. They're a harder team to match up with because of their skill set, and they play differently than anyone else. If they can impose their identity on the game, they can play with anyone and beat anyone, including the Suns.
Okay, that's fair. And beginning of the season, Steph Curry was in the MVP conversation. At the end of the season, Joel Embiid is in the MVP conversation. He and the Sixers on the floor last night taking on Toronto in Game 2 after a magnificent performance in Game 1. And you know what? On this night, McNutt, it was all Embiid in the first quarter.
Yes, you could see the chip on his shoulder, the energy. This play in particular, there was another one where he gets an offensive rebound. I think this is it.
This is it.
Make. I mean, the energy of your 7-footer off the ground first around 3 Raptors defenders, Joel Embiid was not messing around.
He had 19 in the first quarter. Nick Nurse looks like he needs a doctor. The second quarter, Sixers up by 8. Look at Harden dancing.
Yeah, great, cool. We haven't seen a bunch of offensive explosion from James Harden so far, but the Sixers haven't needed it.
Sixers exploded to a 15-point halftime lead, and then Harden throwing it up, and Embiid throwing it down. So they're working together comfortably in this one. Fourth quarter, it's an 11-point game. It's still a game, if you will. And then here's Tyrese Maxey, the hero from Game 1.
Greeny, this play was like, come on, man. Like, all the momentum is on the side of the Sixers. I mean, Tyrese Maxey is emerging in these playoffs, but that play, give me a break.
And then Danny Green throwing it down. Embiid would score 31. And then look at this at the end of the game. He and Nick Nurse kind of having some words, and he would say later, I'm going to use a different word than he used. He said he told Nick Nurse to stop complaining about the calls. He used a different word. But one way or another, you've got the Sixers looking very good. 2 games, they've been the better team, clearly. And they've been better than they've been this year since Harden got there. Their average point differential up 12 points per game. They're shooting from deep up nearly 10% as well. So, Seth, you were a part of the conversations that we had all of last week. It was all the hand-wringing and, the Sixers are in trouble and they don't look good with Harden and this is a bad matchup. And yes, the Raptors were playing without some people, particularly Scotty Barnes. But can we say that a lot of that concern and consternation in Philadelphia has gone away after 2 games?
For this series, without a doubt, everyone's talking about this team. Defensively, I thought they've been terrific. They were active, They were alert, they got deflections. They established, their shot selection was terrific. They established Embiid. And everyone's talking about Harden. Well, Harden's not doing enough. Harden's doing a lot, because I'll tell you what, when Harden has the ball, 6 eyes are on him. So all those open jumpers that Tobias Harris gets, all those open jumpers that Tyrese Maxey gets where he can drive closeouts, come from the defense is set to contain Harden and keep him out of the lane. So, to me, I think this is sustainable, but that next team they're playing is the most physically tough, competitive defensive team in the NBA. Not a good matchup for the Sixers.
That would be Miami, assuming both of those teams get there. And we'll see. Miami still has 3 games to win. And the Sixers still have 2, and they'll have to do it without Matisse Thybulle in Toronto. But interestingly, they've barely played him through these first 2 games, Monica. So they're ready for that.
Indeed. And I think while we celebrate the Maxey train, I know my friend Diana Rossini loves Tyrese Maxey. The one thing that I think should not be undersold about what Maxey has been able to bring is his effort on both sides of the basketball. Last night, he held Fred VanVleet to 2 of 12 when he was the primary defender. And that speaks to your point, Seth. I also was impressed with the overall Sixers defense, the energy there, the cohesion, shall we call it. When James Harden is in the backcourt getting steals and picking folks off, what is happening here? Now, however, in terms of Maxey offensively, the sustainability that I questioned, last night he had 15 transition baskets of the 28 transition points that the Sixers scored. those transition opportunities are not going to come in the same way should they run into Miami.
And then just as a final thought here for the moment, Seth, you mentioned that the Warriors are just a little different from everyone and thus they're hard to defend. So is Joel Embiid, right? I mean, there are a lot of good players. There is no one in the league like him right now. So when he's going, they're awfully tough, yes?
Yes, he can put your whole front court in foul trouble. His ability to get to the line, draw fouls, his ability to finish so many different ways, his ability to actually yesterday I thought he was really active defensively. He's a different cat, and when you surround him with shot makers, and I'm telling you, don't get caught up in the numbers of Harden in terms of the amount of points. Get caught up in terms of how you've got a game plan. The playoffs are all about game plans. You got a game plan for Harden, that makes the game easy for everyone else.
All right, Seth, stay close by. Monica, stay close. We're going to get to the football here, but we've got Jay Will coming up as we go, Jalen coming up, much more on the NBA playoffs. But right now to the NFL, where Baker Mayfield still awaits his next destination. The Panthers, and we've talked a lot about this, have been a rumored landing spot for Mayfield, despite already picking up Sam Darnold's fifth-year option. It's interesting because Mayfield and Darnold were selected 2 picks apart in the same draft a few years ago. So let me get the football squad in here. Diana Rossini is in our